Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Crime Centric. This being a show where it's about crime dramas that I watch. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Ozark, Season 4, Episode 12. Another great episode. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Boy, oh boy, what this show does best is the domino effects. First and foremost, the fact is that Charlotte and Jonah had to, pay for the bill. I'm assuming the way Charlotte was saying, like, thanks for doing this, I'm assuming it was Jonah's own money they used to pay for their bill, because it was like $20,000. So, and it was just kind of embarrassing. They had to walk past their children like, yeah, thanks for getting us out of that. And, Marty's quiet the entire ride. Wendy's the one that's like, thank you, really. And so, I thought it was a really interesting conversation between Wendy and Marty, where Wendy's like, all right, you're going to continue the silent treatment. He's just like, I just don't understand. For her, it's just like everything will work out. You just got to trust me in this plan. But she also says a line that I thought was so legitimately, despite like, you're just like, oh, how frustrating Wendy can be sometimes with what she does. You legitimately do feel bad for her, because in her own way, she isn't always able to show it. And I think that's a byproduct of her upbringing. Why it's probably like, I think Charlotte and Jonah don't realize, like, the way their mom acts isn't out of nowhere. That's deep-seated in her, a lot because of her upbringing, especially because of her dad. Because they still look at it as like, right, this is just your opinion about things. You kind of take like, oh, Marty's taking Wendy's side. You always do. You just assume. But it's like, yeah, but you can't, yes, your mom can be very manipulative. She can do this and that. She kind of gets she tries to do things her own way. She tries to have things go her way all the time. But I still think that's a byproduct of her dad. I think Nathan's very much like that. This whole storyline with him kind of proves that to some extent, So I just think that's fascinating. But Wendy says a line of, I know I'm hard to love. The reason why that's still rummaging through her head, because that's what her father said. And now with everything going on with Marty, she's like, I get it. I'm difficult to love. And when we're so close, once this is all done, you can leave. He's like, is that what you want me to do? And she's like, no, but if you wanted to, I'd understand. I completely understand. I'm difficult to love. And he's like, no, you're not. Yes, you can be probably like, he's like, it's probably the thing of, yes, you're frustrating. And the choices you make sometimes are super frustrating. But it is that he only goes so far. The fact is he gets so frustrated is because he loves you. If he was really not in love with you, he'd shake his hands up and be done. I mean, especially where they were at the beginning of the series, the whole affair situation she had going on until, the man she was cheating with ended up taking a dive off the balcony. I don't think it was the roof. I'm pretty sure it was a balcony with some helping hands from Dale and his people. But still, I think their relationship, once again, it's had its ebb and flows, it's had its complications, but despite it all, despite you getting Helen to put a hit out on Cade, Ruth's dad, so still stuck through that. The therapy situation in Season 3 still stuck through that. If he really wanted nothing to do with you, he'd shake his hands clean of you, but he doesn't. But maybe the argument could be like, well, he does that for Charlotte and Jonah's sake. It's a situation of, yes, last episode he was uber frustrated and he vented to Charlotte. Sadly, that comes back to kind of bite him in the ass a little bit this episode. But I think, once again, like I said, it's frustrating the choices Wendy makes, but you're also like, I get it. I still side more with Wendy than I do her father. Because the way he talks to her, the way he treats her, kind of showcases that, like, right, a lot of, and you can also can't tell someone their version of something, because you can't tell someone, like, how they experience something. So, like, what Wendy went through with her father, you can't tell her, like, no, that's her experience. And she doesn't have her brother here to back up those experiences, so it's just her word. And her kids aren't too quick to take her words after everything. But I think you should listen to her in this regard, but that's, regardless. The problem is, Mel ended up telling Nathan everything. Well, not everything, but it's like, right, I don't think we're going to find your son. This guy, he's a hitter for the cartel. The fact of the matter is, I think your son's dead. The reason why he was mixed up with the Mexican cartel is because your daughter and son-in-law were laundering for them. Even got police were investigating him for it. Nothing was found, but Mel knows what's what. So, I mean, especially because he's working with Maya. He definitely knows, like, obviously what's more what. And so, that's still weird to say. What's what is rather, I meant to say. But Nathan makes his choice. He ends up going to Charlotte and Jonah. he doesn't really question how, well, he knows that they know more about what's going on. So it's like, cool, when I'm leaving in a couple days, I want you guys to leave with me. And Charlotte and Jonah don't really say anything, but I guess off screen they did give him an actual answer. They said, like, yeah, they would go with him. And Charlotte's justification is like, right, how can we protect you with Grandpa around? Like, I think that was Charlotte's way to be like, honestly, because Charlotte and Jonah already kind of made that clear that no matter what happens with Mom and Dad, we will have each other's back. We won't turn into a Wendy and Ben situation. We won't ever let that happen. So let's stick together, and the best way to stick together is to go with her grandpa. So, but Wendy's like, nah, fuck that. I'm not having my children taken from me, especially not to go home to that house with that man. Fuck that. And, you know, Marty's like, so what do we do? So Wendy and Marty play their chips with Schaefer, but Schaefer's like, cool, you already want two things for me. You want Navarro off the SDN list, and you also want this to make the whole make Mel, because it's like, right, as long as he don't show up to court, then that kind of handicaps Nathan's case, essentially. So but Schaefer's like, no. He's playing a little hardball. If you want me to go a little extra mile, your money only gets you so far. So I need your help setting up these voting machines. It's like, cool. So we're going to be committing even bigger federal crimes of swaying an election and using illegal like voting machines to kind of sway things. It's like, cool. Wendy already had to deal with that a little bit last in the first half of season 4. So now it's like, right, you're gonna have to double down and actually get in the middle of that, which she still kind of know. So now the question is, what do you want more? Mel getting his job back as a Chicago officer, that way he leaves this whole thing alone, or do you want this whole Navarro thing? So it's more, and I think that shows priorities, where it's like, cool, like, Navarro can wait, it's fine. Let's set up everything using the Schaefer situation to go ahead and make this Mel thing happen so that we can keep our kids. And I think in the long run, it's sad that it kind of meant nothing. They made all these sacrifices. They went through this rigmarole for nothing. Because, cool, they had to, like, it was a little bit of a tough sale, eventually using Schaefer to get to that guy, which is most recently saw him in Hightown. What's his character? It's been a while. So his character's name's Bill, right, from Hightown. So go to him. They do get Mel his job back. They do tell Mel, he's kind of like, fuck you, don't get it twisted. Like, this is all I've wanted for the past 4 years was to get my job back, because I am a good cop. But at the same time, he's like, I'm not so stupid knowing, like, what did you give the guy? That fat bastard, what'd you give him? A car, a boat? And all Marty could say was, it's like, wow, you are really good. You figured it out pretty quickly what we got him, without acknowledging it. It's like, yeah, that's what we did. And he's like, fine. And he actually talks to Maya about, like, what he's going to do. Which Maya's like, you already know what to do. The question is, are you going to do it or not? And she's like, if you take this option, I don't want to have anything to do with you. I don't want to see you anymore. Because it did seem like there was a budding romance there. They didn't really lean into it too much. I guess because, you know, they've had only so many episodes left. And they decided, like, right, that's just going to be such a background thing. And, you know, Maya ends up calling up Marty and Wendy, and it's like, right, here you are. Like, do you just guys devise how to, like, screw over someone else's life? Just like, oh, how are we going to fuck up someone else's life today? And in that moment, they're like, wait, Mel's still debating about it. It's not a clear answer. So they weren't 100% sure how things were going to play out in court. The fact is that he does ultimately not show up. They're kind of excited about it. I was curious because I felt like Mel could have gone either way, which he ultimately ends up walking away and getting his job back. But I was like, man, there's so many different, I felt like he still could show up and kind of screw them over. I thought Marty at the end of it all, especially Maya being like, Marty, you still in line? You had a choice, and hangs up. I thought Marty was going to glean with the whole thing of, I don't like it either, but it keeps the kids away. We're trying to do what's best for them. But even Marty's like, no, like, knowing what Wendy said about their dad, plus it's like, no, the kids need to be with us. We're their parents. We should be the ones with them. So there's that whole situation. And so they've got that to deal with. Then Navarro is like, no, I'm not going to wait. Because now they have to, like, set up whole new deals. They have to get more people involved with Jim. Jim reaching out to more people to make it so that they can get Navarro out. But Navarro's not going to wait weeks. He's not going to wait months. He's not going to wait weeks. He's like, you got a couple of days. Especially because he's got his sister whispering in his ear about like, yo, this is what we should do. Because Wendy's like, right, we kind of got all the time in the world. Like, we got at least a buffer zone because Camilla's going to be so busy with the day-to-day operations of the cartel. She won't have time to, and the moment she was saying that, I'm like, Camilla's going to be inside, isn't she? Oh, lo and behold, there she is waiting with you. And she's been whispering in her brother's ear like, oh, we should be picking up production. We should be laundering more. Spread the money out a little bit more. The loyalty to the lieutenants and stuff. Which Marty sees that for what it is. It's like, cool. Camilla is assuring her the lieutenant's loyalty to her own. And now it's like, yep, slowly but surely, Navarro's getting undercut. Not just him, Marty and Wendy as well. Because whereas Navarro decided to keep them around and kill Helen, she's not going to be so happy about that because it's like, right, their loyalties to Navarro and not hers. She probably knows, like, right, I don't like you guys, because she probably chalks them up to being like a constant interaction between them and Javi and everything. So they're definitely going to go. Navarro's the only reason why Wendy and Marty are still alive. He likes them. He took an interest in them. So, but the moment he's removed from the board, they're expendable as well. So, and now it's like, cool. And Wendy's just kind of like, okay. And she's just like, fuck! And screams that and gets in the car, calls up Schaefer's like, cool, we'll do the voting machine thing. Because like, we need to get on that fast. Because it would take too long with Jim's route. So it's like, cool. Like I said, in the end, it didn't matter. Because, cool, Mel didn't show up. It's like, yeah, we get our kids. Wait, what? It's like, yeah. The judge is like, well, Charlotte's almost 18, so she legally has the right. Plus, you guys recently got arrested. Jonah's been living on his own in a motel, so obviously something's going on there. It's like, no, but Jonah's 15. It's like, yeah, but if he's old enough to live on his own in a motel, he's old enough to make these decisions. So everything came crumbling down. Despite everything they did, they set themselves back because of this whole trying to like push Mel out situation, and it's like it amounted to nothing. And now like, well, Mel's off your case, so that's dealt with. Nathan's going to be off your back at least a little bit to some extent, but it is not the outcome anybody wanted. I mean, maybe Jonah and Charlotte, and they decide to go with Nathan. Once again, they're not listening to what Wendy's saying. In fact, they're throwing what Marty said, like, right, you said that it's mom's choices, that she's a, God, what was the word that it's a word he used last episode, and it's the word that she used this time. And Wendy's almost looking like, wait, you really said that? But she also kind of gave him that out early in the episode. He's like, yes, that is between me and your mom. That has nothing to do with your grandfather. But once again, they're like, right, you always take mom's side in this, so they're not really listening to him in this regard. And Wendy walks over, and she's begging her dad. She's like, please, I will be good. Please don't take my kids from me. And you feel like, you can see Ruth in the background. Ruth does not like Wendy. She hates Wendy, and even she feels bad in that moment. Wendy is on her knees begging, and it's just like, I will. And I think they've had that very conversation before about like, no, I'll be good, Daddy. I promise, Daddy, please, I'll be good. The fact that she's calling him not Dad, Daddy. The fact is, like, her breaking down like that. He's like, oh, stop making a fool of yourself. Don't worry, I'm gonna take those kids and I'm gonna make them. He's like, I'm doing this for their sake. And then he adds on that little tag of, I'm going to make sure that they never come back to you. You're never going to see them again, because I'm going to tell them about who you really are. And in that moment, you just see, like, her eyes glaze over. Wendy's just like, her world shattered in that moment. And when they get in the car, the episode ends with her, like, banging her head against the window. I'm surprised she just did it once, and just you see the blood just slowly trickle down her face. I legitimately felt bad for Wendy. Yes, she makes some moves that you're just like, oh, Wendy, you're so frustrating. Once again, I still say that out of anyone, she is definitely the Walter White of the series, more so than Marty, in my opinion. But that's why I love her character, because she's so frustrating, because she makes such dark choices. But like I said, it just feels like I really like Dark Side Wendy, but I'm agreeing with Marty. I'm like, yo, like, Wendy's been out of pocket this season. Like, she's been wilding with her choices. But at the same, and it all culminates in this. It's like, everything you've done all your plans are falling apart at the wayside. Camilla's positioning herself in a better position to kind of take over things. All the sacrifices you made to get Navarro out of prison as soon as possible so that Camilla can't like rally the power she needs. It's like you probably would have gotten him out sooner, but you decided to go down the Mel route, which you got rid of him, and now he's a cop. But still, that's like, you know, and now Maya's already like dead set on coming after you anyway, and I think this probably just adds more motivation to it, because it's like, right, you guys continue to destroy other people's lives. Fuck you guys, I'm coming after you harder than before. Like, because I don't know if they know that Mel and her are working together. You can probably infer it just by the fact that Maya's like, yo, I sat down with Mel, so like that shows you there's some collaboration there, but I don't know how intimately together they were working. That, I mean, well, intimately and that on a personal level, but also in the grand scheme of all of this of trying to take down the birds, that they don't know about either side of that equation when it comes to her. And so it's interesting how this is the last we probably see of Mel. And then you add in the fact is that it's interesting, like the whole Sam situation too, him getting baptized. I'd actually forgotten about, I'd let that slip my mind about the whole, like, all right, he had his mom condensed into a ring and his fiance took off with it. So it's like, cool. Sam's been on, he's kind of like your lovable, gullible idiot, but you love him so much and you kind of feel bad for him, just everything that's kind of going down. So Sam getting baptized, I thought there was going to be a situation the way he was looking at Annalise. I'm like, is that going to be a thing? He's like, you do know that she's in a relationship with Nathan. I thought but it's like, no, I think Sam just feels good. It's like being baptized, going to church again, and just, it feels good. It feels like he's kind of on a better path now. So I thought that was pretty dope. So, but that moment he had with Mel, where Mel was like, yeah, everything I owe is to AA. Once again, if it was any other show, Mel would be the protagonist. I said this during the first half of the season. Mel, if you flip this show into something else, Mel would be easily the protagonist. You'd be rooting for him. I'm rooting against him because Marty and Wendy are the protagonists. If the Bird family wasn't the protagonist, if they were just the best, that's kind of like, right. That's why I was kind of ride or die. Even though Walter White did some terrible, terrible stuff, I'll still ride or die because, like, once again, I want you to get away with it. Same thing with Light Yagami from Death Note. It's kind of that same time where I'm like, I feel kind of bad because I'm like, I kind of root for the protagonists who are actually the bad guys. But, you know, like I said, it's just, I wanted Mel out of the way because I'm like, oh, you suck because you're so good at your job and you're actually a good person for trying to do the right thing. But, you know, so he's a shark that smells blood in the water, and he sniffed it out, but now he's kind of cast aside. Once again, I think this is the last we'll see of Mel, but you never know. There's still 2 more episodes for him to kind of make some surprise appearances, but I doubt it. It's kind of crazy to think. Because I was under the impression this show was going to be 16 episodes. Because originally, I think they said it was. Like, this is well, like, after, like, season 3 had come out. They had said that. And, like, well before season 4 was, like... So, I was under the impression, like, the back half of this season was going to be a little bit longer. But it's like, no. I didn't realize it was 2 episodes shorter than I thought it was going to be. I'm also curious, because it seemed like the episodes are longer, too. Like, they're over, like, an hour plus. I feel like I've been noticing that. I feel like the episodes weren't always that long. At least, like, they're a couple minutes longer than they used to be. Just thought that was interesting. I only took notice of it now, but I mean, obviously they got to squeeze a lot in. But aside from all that, you have Ruth and continuing the whole thing with Ruth and Rachel when they came into their conversation with Charles. It's like, cool, we could do things the easy way. We could basically make it so that Rachel kind of runs things and it kind of goes through her name and you get that's how you can get the casino. Or we can clean your record. And it's like, that's the hard way because she's got a lot of stuff, but it's all back juvie related stuff and is usually associated with her family. So Ruth was kind of reluctant to do it because it's like, right, they're just going to the judge is going to look at me and assume she knows who I am and won't bat an eye. You know, and I think sometimes that can be a toss-up. Sometimes there probably will be judges who just look at your record and not see the person you are. And just like, all they'll see is your record. It's like, oh, you're a shady person. Fuck you. Boom. I think that's pliable, but I think there will be and are judges, just like the one in this episode with Mayhew, who I believe do kind of look beyond just your record and are willing to give people another shot. Especially with everything Ruth has done, legitimately that the public isn't aware of. Like everything with the whole motel, working at the casino, like all the public stuff and not the shady stuff she's been doing behind the scenes with the birds and stuff like that. So, yeah. But Rachel really pushes her for the whole thing because it's like, right, a clean record in our circumstance. It's like you could be the in the Ozarks, you could be like the here in the Ozarks, like, yeah, you could be like the only one who made it. I don't remember if she uses the term trailer trash or not. She's just like, yeah, you're like the only like fuck up in town who can make it. You'll be the success story in the Ozarks. It was a specific word that she used. I don't remember what it was. I don't think it was trailer trash. It wasn't. It was something else. It was kind of along those lines, but it wasn't nearly as harsh as trailer trash. I just don't remember what it was. Either way, Ruth kind of decides to go down that route, and Mayhew actually is like, cool. All right, I'm willing to give you a shot, run through these records, and also have a visit to your home. And it's like, cool. And on top of all this, Sheriff Ronnie shows up being like, hey, we arrested the guy that killed Wyatt. It's like, wait, what? It's like, yeah, it's a guy that worked for Darlene. Apparently he stole some of Wyatt and Darlene's stuff. Apparently he tried to pawn it off like a couple days before the murder. Poor luck for that bastard. And even Ruth's like, why are you being so nice to me now? He's like, yeah, I hope that this would give you peace. And she's like, you're only doing this because you found out I got money because of my cousin. And it's like, I guess it's like, oh, you're just trying to, because I'm like a better success story now, maybe it's a situation of you're hoping I slide some of this money towards your campaign to becoming sheriff and stuff. And he says like it'll bring her peace. It won't. Like, I mean, well, it actually makes her feel guilty because she opens up to Rachel about it. Rachel's like, oh, fuck, that does suck. But Ruth can't be like, yo, that guy didn't do it. It's like, well, how do you know? Well, because I know who actually did it because I killed him. It's like, yeah, I'm already trying to get my record clean. I can't go off getting arrested for this would be throwing away the rest of I'd be spending the rest of my life in prison. So, and especially after she talked to Mayhew and ended up ultimately getting her record clean, she's like, I know you are worried about taking a chance on me. Just with everything, but Ruth has worked hard and she wants this more so than anything else. So it's an opportunity to go clean. It's also like kind of like rebuilding the Langmore legacy more than what it is, and kind of I think her way of honoring her cousin, Wyatt in the process. But she actually goes visits the guy that was arrested. He doesn't, even though he worked for Darlene, I guess he never ran into Ruth because he didn't recognize her. It's like, okay, you saying like I stole your cousin's stuff. I guess he might not even realize that Wyatt was a Langmore because she's like, oh, I'm Ruth Langmore. He's like, oh, I've heard your people. It's like, so I guess he didn't know Wyatt was a Langmore. He just probably knew Wyatt. Probably didn't even know Wyatt's name. He's like, oh yeah, that guitar, like I stole. Oh, so the person who was murdered was your cousin. He's like, I did find it interesting that you're more so asking about the guitar rather than whether or not I actually murdered your cousin, which I didn't. But he's like, oh, like, Russ, that's your daddy. I'm kind of a bit of a fuck up. It's like, no, that was my uncle. You talk about her daddy, Cade. Oh, he's a major fuck up, too. So, I mean, it's just kind of like the Langmore legacy, and I think Ruth is trying to change it. But she was looking for an excuse to try and find out what kind of guy this guy was. She was like, why'd you steal the guitar? I need to know. He was like, to get drugs. What the fuck else? To get drugs, bitch. So it's like she needed an excuse to be like, oh, you're a garbage piece of shit human. I don't care. I don't feel too guilty about it. But when he talked a little bit about himself, he's like, yeah, I lost my brothers over the past 2 years. And, those fucking assholes, like things have been pretty rough. She feels a little bad for him, but also it's like, he's like, you did hear me when I said I didn't do it. She's like, yeah, but you did something. Which is kind of bull hockey. He's done some shady stuff in the past, but he didn't kill your cousin, and you know it, but you can't really help him out without compromising yourself. You can at the very least make it so it's like, oh, he's not the one who did it, but it leaves Darlene and Wyatt's case still open, and that leaves time for... No one's going to necessarily connect it to Javi and connect Ruth to it, but still, that could be an issue if the case stayed open. So let him be the fall guy. He's not, it's not like she's sending some great innocent person to jail. I mean, it did stop Marty from feeling bad about the Arturo situation. It's like, right, he's a guy in the cartel. Do you really feel that bad for him? So, but it's like, hey, an innocent person's an innocent person for a crime, so... I just thought that was fascinating. So, I should also note, too, that Ruth did leave Ben with, Jonah. I was blinking for a second there, sorry. So, it's going to be interesting. Because the last time we saw it, it was still at the motel, but it's probably a thing of Jonah will, like, we don't know if they're leaving immediately or whether it's because he at the time he wasn't going to leave until a couple more days. Nathan wasn't, so they might still be in town for a couple more days. But after all of that, they might be staying with their grandfather until they leave. We'll see, or not unless it's an immediate thing. But holy crap, it's going to be interesting to see where this goes. Once again, it's going to be 2 crazy filled episodes left in the show. And I'm so excited to see how this all plays out. Like, I'm kind of nervous to finish the show because I'm like, I don't, because once we reach the end, this show can't, if this show has like a, uplifting enough ending, I get the feeling like there's not going to be a happy ending to this. And I think that's going to break my heart. But we shall see. Because there's also the car crash thing. I'm like, wow, that still hasn't come up yet. So that must be like the last shot of the season, and that might be them all dying in a car crash. Or, once again, Marty and Wendy dying and the kid surviving. That might be where that is. That might be the end of the next episode, and then that will tease up the series finale. I have no idea. Once again, 2 episodes for that scene to come up, because we've been teasing that for a while. It was teased at the beginning of the series. They even included it in the trailer for the part 2 of this season. So it's going to come up. So the context around it, what that's all about, because obviously we didn't have the context of everything else that's going on. Now, keeping all that in mind, plus knowing that crash is in front of us, whether it's next episode, whether it's the series finale, I definitely feel like it's probably more episode 13 and teeing up the series finale, but we shall see how this all plays out. Ruth's attempt to buy the casino, especially with everything that's going on. Wendy in the very, kind of broken state she's in right now. She'll probably fight back even harder against Ruth, or maybe she'll just be complacent. I don't know. We'll see how that plays out. But really, that's all I want to talk about. So the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.